In today's lesson we're going to talk about 4 different scales that you can play against a minor 7 chord. Before we get into today's lesson, I'd just like to say that this is part of a series of lessons that I'm doing for this newly started Patreon membership that you can check out and be part of if you're interested. I'm going to be posting lessons every week. We have a lot to talk about. There's already quite a lot of lessons and playing videos up there, so please check that one out. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and without out of the way, let's get into today's lesson. So 4 different sounds or 4 different scales to play against a minor 7 chord. We can start out by thinking, what is a scale to begin with, apart from an exercise or something like that. What is a scale? In Western music we only have 12 notes, but these 12 notes can be grouped into a very large number of groups, and each grouping of notes is what we call a scale. So a scale is a group of notes that work well together, and they have a specific character. That's why they work well together as a group. And that group, called the scale, has its own color, musical color, or character, if you like. So we're going to take a look at a B minor 7 chord, and I'm going to show you those 4 scales, some of which are quite common, others are less common, but I think that they're very interesting. So let's see, say that I have this B minor sound. I'm playing a B minor 9 chord, and the first scale that comes to mind would be a B Dorian scale. Now let's look at the B Dorian scale. So say that I'm here in my starting note B. The B Dorian scale, you can look at it in 2 different ways. Either as a scale in itself, with the root being B, so you start from B and end on B, and that's the B Dorian scale, or you can think of it as part of the A major scale, so that will be the second mode of the A major scale. So for the purposes of this lesson, we're not going to refer back to the parent major scale, but we're going to think about all of the scales that I'm going to show you as their own scales. So I'm going to play the B Dorian scale from B and treat it as an individual scale rather than as a mode. So the B Dorian, some of the notes of that scale are chord tones in B minor 7. So I have the B, I have the D, I have the F sharp, and then I have the A. That would be the chord tones of the minor 7 chord. And then some of the other notes are the notes in between, that are the diatonic notes that produce the extensions of the chord. And all of the scales that I'm going to show you have some of those notes that give that scale exactly the character that is interesting, because of those interesting extension notes. So on B Dorian, I also have the E, and then I also have the G sharp. Now that will be the 6th or 13th degree of the scale. E, that I mentioned before, will be the 4th or 11th degree of the scale. And then I also have the C sharp, which is the 9th or 2nd. So if I play a chord now with the C sharp and the G sharp, the 9th and the 13th, against the B, that's the effect of the Dorian sound against the B. the B. Now, let's go over to the next scale. If I'm starting on B again, and I just change one note on the Dorian scale, so that was the Dorian. Now, if I take the E on the Dorian, the fourth note, and I move it up to F, and I keep everything else the same, then I get this scale. Now that's a very interesting sound, and it's not one that you hear every day. Now let's talk a little bit about this scale. I call the scale Shepherd's Minor, or B Melodic Minor, and I first came across it when I was learning more about folk music from Greece. So that's one of the scales used in that kind of music. There is another name for it. There's the classical name, you would call this the Dorian sharp 4, because the fourth degree of the scale is sharpened. The E went up to F. Or you can call it Shepherd's Minor. So that F against the minor 7 chord will give you something like that kind of sound. And again, we're looking at the scale from the perspective of B. It's also a mode, like the Dorian. It can also be seen as a mode of another scale, and that would be the fourth mode of the F sharp harmonic minor scale. In other words, if I were to play the F sharp harmonic minor scale starting on B and ending on B, rather than F sharp, then that would be this scale that I'm talking about, the Dorian sharp 4 or the B Shepherd's Minor scale. Let's move on to the next scale. Now we're going to get into some melodic minor scales. The first one is the B Melodic Minor scale. So I'm staying on the root note B. And again, if you think about the starting scale Dorian, I'm changing one note in order to get this new scale. So the Dorian had an A. Now I'm going to change that A to A sharp. And I get this scale. That'll be the B Melodic Minor scale. And that's the sound against the B. It's a drastically different sound to the first two scales that we looked at. So that A sharp, it's the interesting note, the special note of this scale. Each one of those four scales has one or two notes that are of special interest, that give the scale its unique character against the B minor 7 sound. Let's look at the last scale. Is one more melodic minor scale, and that will be the F sharp melodic minor scale. So I would play a melodic minor scale starting on F sharp. Now, what's happening with this scale is that there is a note that creates a very, very interesting effect. When I play it, I have this note here, this D sharp. The D sharp against the B is the major third. So think about that for a minute. I'm playing a B minor 7 thing, chord scale, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm superimposing the major third. So the major third on a minor thing. Now that's going to sound wild. that's going to sound very intense. I'm going to play some examples later on so you hear how that sounds when you put a major third against a minor chord. So now let's do some playing. I'm going to try to play a little bit. I have a backing track here. And I'm going to go through all of those scales. I'm going to change from one to the other. And I'm going to try to make it obvious by hitting those special notes every time I change scale. So see if you can spot what's happening when I'm changing scales and when I'm going over to the next one. The backing track that I'm going to play is from a piece of mine that I wrote when I was checking out this Dorian sharp 4 or Shepherd's minor scale. It's a vamp on B minor 7, but it goes, you're probably going to hear that the rhythm is a bit strange, so it's a 9/4 rhythm. So that's an extra interesting thing. So let's try and do it. Let's improvise a little bit and see if we can get all those special notes of each scale to happen. So what do you think? Could you hear the change of scales and those notes and how it affected kind of the sound, the different weight that each one of those special notes on the 4 scales had? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to just finish off this lesson by saying that there are a couple of unusual things here. You see, I'm playing against the 9/4 backing track, and then I'm going over some scales. Some of them, like the Dorian, you probably heard of before. Some of the other ones, like the Shepherd's minor, maybe not, and so on. That's a good thing. If you found something in this video that is new, I say that's a good thing, because now you know what you need to work on. You see, if I'm allowed to get a bit philosophical for a minute, in life nobody ever tells you what you need to do, especially if you're a grown-up. You kind of have to figure everything out on your own. When you play music, or when you play a musical instrument, music tells you what you need to do. Every time you come across something, how do you play on a 9/4? I've never done that before. What is a Shepherd's minor scale? Every time you discover something new, that's great, because now you know what you need to do. You know what you need to practice to get better. You just need to sit down and do it. So, thanks for today. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you at the next lesson.